100 videos! Hooray! And every other successful YouTuber is like, amateur. Which, admittedly, I am. But because I have 100 videos now, I thought this would be a perfect time to give you this video. That's right, this video is going to be talking about the worst movies I've ever seen in my life. Right off the heels of talking about the worst movies of last year, here's the movies that I absolutely hate of any year, any time in my life at all. First off, let's start with the number 10 movie, which is a movie a lot of people hate, including me, but I just think the others are worse in my opinion. And that movie is Disaster Movie from writer-director schmucks Jason Freeberg and Aaron Seltzer. I did not see this movie in the theater. I'd see it at home as an endurance test. No HD, no breaks, no good food, no one to comfort me, and it is just one of the most unbearable movies I've ever seen. I don't know what the movie's really about. It's just an excuse of, hey, remember this? That's Juno. Or look, it's Iron Man. Hey, Batman. Alvin and the Chipmunks, Kung Fu Panda. Just everything that was frickin' popular in late 2007 or through all of 2008. And to prove to you how lazy this movie was, they just show like, hey, do you remember this big hit from this movie? And they have a, quote, parody, unquote, of Love Guru, a movie that came out 2 months before this movie and that bombed. So that proved that they were just looking at trailers to see what movies were possibly going to be hits, and hey, look, we'll just parody. I'm sorry, parody's a strong word. Just we'll mention them in our movie. I hate Disaster Movie, and if this is my number 10 movie, then I have clearly seen much worse things. Well, let's move on to number 9, a movie that I did actually review on my channel, X-Men Origins Wolverine. I honestly consider this to be the worst superhero movie in the world. I hate Daredevil, I hate the Fantastic Four, and I hate Batman and Robin, but with Daredevil, that movie was forgettable, and Ben Affleck has certainly proven himself as a really talented director, and he's earned my respect. The Fantastic Four movies are close to X-Men Origins Wolverine, and Batman and Robin is just goofy that I could laugh at because of how ridiculous it is. It's a bad movie. I don't like that movie at all, but at least it has some laughable moments with Mr. Freeze, played by Arnold Schwarzenegger, and his puns everywhere. What makes this one so bad is that the first X-Men movie from Bryan Singer brought life back into the superhero genre after Batman and Robin killed it. And one of the things that really worked in those first 3 movies was Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. He really embodied the character of Wolverine. And even though X-Men 3 was shit, he did carry that movie and was still really good in the role of Wolverine. So once you get to this movie, where it's a prequel, it's a solo Wolverine movie, and he's listed as one of the producers, he's bad as Wolverine for the first time, and it's terrible special effects. The script is idiotic, with really bad, stupid dialogue, and moments in the movie that just, when you watch the movie again, you are even mad at. Like, this is a movie that you watch again after your first viewing, and it gets worse. And, oh my god, poor Deadpool. I hate what they did to Deadpool, but luckily, I'm grateful Fox has redeemed themselves with the X-Men franchise with First Class, The Wolverine, and hopefully Days of Future Past. So that's why X-Men Origins Wolverine is at number 9. Now, for number 8, it's no surprise that one of these movies had to be on here. And which one is it that I picked? Well, it's the Twilight Saga Breaking Dawn Part 1. Now, why do I pick Part 1? Well, because the first Twilight movie is really bad. It's bad, but it's tolerable. You could watch it and you're like, this isn't good. This is far from good. But at least it's like, you know what? The girls can have their movie. I may not like it at all, but it's harmless. The second movie angered me. It not only angered me, but it also made me piss myself with laughter because of all the ridiculous, stupid moments in the movie. And that ending is so retarded. Sorry, but it's just really dumb. The third movie was entertaining, but it was still crap. This one is absolute shit. It's too long. It's, again, insulting. The fact that Twilight tries to talk about abortion, I mean, I know Doug Walker mentioned this when he reviewed the movie, but it really does feel like that Twilight is tackling the subject of abortion and trying to get this baby out of Bella, which is, you can't do that, Twilight. No, you just can't do that. And then when you get to that scene where they're trying to grab the baby out, that everyone, even haters of the book, said this is a pretty cool scene. Once you actually get to that scene in the movie, you're like, that was shit. It was so toned down, you could not see a thing that was going on, and it is just atrocious. And as for part 2, I am grateful I have not seen that movie. Even though I've heard it's the best of the 5 movies, I still will not see it. But there you go, Twilight Breaking Dawn Part 1 is number 7. Number 7 is from the assassin of good comedy, who somehow keeps making money, Adam Sandler, Jack and Jill. This was another endurance test. This was a movie, when it came out, I had to go out of my way for this movie to see if it was really as bad as people were saying. This was before I was reviewing movies, so I rented it on DVD, had to watch it, and holy shit, is the worst movie of that year. And Twilight Breaking Dawn Part 1 came out the same year. But Jack and Jill, it's like we've got past the one actor playing his twin sister in the same movie. I mean, right off the bat, that should be indicator that's shit. Another indicator is that they make this character, with her voice and the way she acts around people, so unlikable. Like one of the most hated characters I've ever seen in cinema. And let me rephrase that. One of the most hated characters I've ever seen in cinema. And then, to top it all off, you got Al Pacino in this movie. Academy Award winner Al Pacino from The Godfather and Scarface. And admittedly, he is the funniest part of the movie, but that's a backhanded compliment because just the fact that this icon of an actor is in this piece of shit makes the movie 10 times worse than it actually is. So, I hate this movie. It deserved every single Razzie that this movie earned, and for a while I thought that was the worst Adam Sandler movie ever. But then I saw number 6. What could be worse than Jack and Jill? How about Adam Sandler in animated form, 8 Crazy Nights? I can't believe I have to admit this, but I actually know people who actually do like this movie. This is worse than Jack and Jill, because one thing, it's animated. The animation is really good. This is the Al Pacino moment all over again. The animation is so good, it makes this movie a million times worse. That is just... And it has the single worst use of product placement I've ever seen. Like, there's a scene in a mall where, like, one of the main characters just flat out, like, says, "It's Radio Shack, Panda Express, GMC, everything's here!" And not only that, but the products seem to come to life. And that main character I was doing voice of was Whitey, who is the single worst character Adam Sandler has ever done in any of his movies. If he's in most of the movie, he speaks during a lot of the emotional moments, and you just want to claw your eardrums out of your ears because it has such an irritating voice. When watching this movie, at the end of the movie, I got a headache solely because of that fucking voice. And I also want to say that I remember seeing trailers for this movie on TV when it first came out. And because the animation reminded me so much of Iron Giant, I asked my parents, mainly my mom, if I could see the movie, if they could take me to see the movie. She said, "No, you are not watching 8 Crazy Nights." And all I have to say is, thank you, Mom. I hate this movie so much. Number 5 is a more recent movie, but is one that's so bad that it deserves to be on this list. Movie 43. I've bitched about this movie enough, and I think the only way I can really sum up this movie is this. I fucking hate Movie 43! Woo! Woo! Yeah, That movie pisses me off to no end, so we're gonna move on from movie 43. Now, X-Men Origins Wolverine was a movie that basically ruined the X-Men franchise, but I was never a big fan of the X-Men franchise to begin with, until really X-Men First Class. Number 4, 3, and 2 are movies that totally raped big series that I love. Number 4 is Godzilla. Oh, I'm sorry, Zilla. There's no Godzilla in this movie. It's just Zilla. Roland Emmerich's piece of shit that came out in 1998, which was the first try to make Godzilla popular, like really popular among mainstream Americans rather than kaiju nuts like me. And it failed miserably. Sadly, no, again, some people who do like this movie, and I just hate this movie. It's like, no Godzilla. The monster they try to pass off as Godzilla is pathetic, runs from the military, doesn't destroy any buildings. You're supposed to feel sorry for the monster, like it's a Jurassic Park moment, and that's not what Godzilla is at all. Luckily, Godzilla will hopefully have his redemption this May, and I'm really excited for that. I'll review this movie the sooner we get to the new Godzilla, but until now, I despise this movie. Now, number 3 is a movie that manages to rape 2 franchises at once. Aliens vs. Predator Requiem. Now, really briefly, my thoughts on the first Alien vs. Predator. It's bad. I do not like it at all, but it has some cool moments, and at the very least you can see what's going on in terms of the action. This is horrible. This movie is absolutely insulting and angering to me. Because you got 2 series, Alien and Predator, that started out with 2... Okay, Alien started out with 2 great movies, Alien and Aliens. One is number 2 in my favorite horror movies, and one is number 3 in my favorite science fiction movies. And then you got Predator, which is a movie that was like, it's cool, whatever, but today I think it's one of the best action movies ever made. One of my favorites. And then you got this movie that basically reduces both franchises into Friday the 13th. And what's even worse is that it was made cheaply. You really can't tell what's going on during the fight scenes, which are the only entertaining things about this movie, but the lighting ruins it. And there's no big name actors. You gotta think to yourself, how did 2 franchises that had big name actors like Arnold Schwarzenegger and Sigourney Weaver sink this low? How did that happen? Well, it did. Luckily, there was never an Alien vs. Predator 3, and you can say what you want about Predators and Prometheus, but you can admit that those movies are a lot better than this. Hate you, Aliens vs. Predator 2. Speaking of 2, this movie is a big number 2. Sorry. It's one of the movies that I despise. This was the first time sitting in a movie theater where I wanted to tear something up. I wanted to punch the screen and everyone involved with this movie. Transformers Revenge of the Fallen. Now, what makes this worse than Godzilla or Aliens vs. Predator Requiem is the fact that both of those movies, they were insulting, but they didn't make enough money, and there were never follow-ups. This movie is one of the highest grossing movies of all time, and had another movie coming out which was just as bad, if not worse. And then you got a 4th movie coming out this July or June, which it's not going to be any good. It's going to be shit. But for Transformers 2, it's too long. Optimus Prime dies at the 50-minute mark and doesn't come back until the very end of the movie, where he just takes out the main bad guy in 1 minute and 30 seconds. Shia LaBeouf is your main character, who all he does is scream, bitch, and is pretty much useless. And then you've got Skids and Mudflap, who are probably one of the most racist things I've ever seen in film. And then not to mention Robot Heaven and robot testicles hanging from Devastator's crotch. I'll review the first 3 Transformers movies when the 4th one comes out, because I plan not to bitch about these movies until the new one comes out, but until then. Now, for number 1, this is a movie that I did review. I've made a point of saying it's the worst movie I've ever seen. And I'm sorry, this is not one of those movies that's so bad it's good. Birdemic, Shock and Terror. is dog shit. It's so immaturely made, has the worst sound ever. Like, it's basically like Whitey's voice in 8 Crazy Nights, except it's through the whole movie non-stop. It is atrocious. I don't care what people say about, oh, it's so bad it's funny. No, it's just bad. It is absolute dog shit. It is made by somebody who does not know how to make a movie and should never make a movie in his lifetime ever again. The only good thing you can say is something that turns me into a sexist douchebag, which is, oh, Whitney Moore is half naked in a baby blue bra and panties. And that's all you can say, and there's no way you can compliment this movie without turning into a sexist prick, like I just did. So I've complained about the movie enough in my review. You can watch the review for me to go into more details, but Birdemic, hate you. So that's my 100th video, the worst movies I've ever seen in my life. Leave a comment, tell me what the worst movies are that you've seen. Subscribe to my channel for more stuff in the future. Check out my other channel, AlexG8462. You can follow me on Twitter at AlexG8462. Follow me on Instagram at TheRealMrRobinson. And go like my Facebook page, /The Cinemas of Mr. Robinson. Share me with your friends and tell them about me. And remember to know it before you see it. This has been The Cinemas of Mr. Robinson. And I'll see you guys later.